Shut up and sit down.
Greetings, fellow Earth travelers. Oblix here, and today I want to take just a second to look at 1 year's worth of Watch Gang watches. How y'all doing today, guys? So, this box contains our entire year's worth of Watch Gang Black Tier subscription. So we started over here in June of 2018, and we ended up over here in May of 2019 with this piece here. So we went across this way and then down this way. So let's take a quick rundown of what we got. So in June 2018 we got the Heritor Morrison. July we ended up with the Puredial Powersphere. August we got the out of order Casanova. Then in September, we ended up with a Chronologia Trekker. Then, a little bit of a weird month, October. And this is the only watch I'm actually going to pull out of the collection and not include. Because this is not a black tier watch. This is actually a platinum tier watch. They sent me a black tier watch called a Blacklist Streetmatic, and I'll put a picture in here for you. That one had some problems, and Watch Gang contacted me and said, hey, we don't want you to have problems, we want to replace that for you. I said, sure, no problem, as long as it can be of the exact same thing. They don't normally guarantee that, but this time they made the exception and said, sure, we'll replace it with the exact same thing, we'll get that shipped out. And it took quite some time, but we got it taken care of. They shipped me a brand new Blacklist Streetmatic, exactly the same as the one I had before. And I shipped them the old one back. Well, the new one also had problems. Even worse problems than the first one. It actually had hairs glued down to the applied indices inside the case on the dial. And the second hand, as it swept past, it was a quartz, would bang into those hairs, and it actually caused it to be very off time, to the tune of hours. That second hand would just stall. So I contacted them again, sent it back again, waited probably yet another month. I think we're like 3 months in now, and instead they sent me this Vanguard Automatic Victorville, a very cool watch. I love the watch, but it is a Platinum Series watch, so a significantly more expensive watch. I believe for the Platinum Series you pay $299 a month, and you're guaranteed a much higher end watch. So we are going to remove this guy because I don't think it's fair to judge all these black tiers with this Platinum tier. I just don't think it's fair. But we have an excellent runner-up to throw in. I will pop this Victorville off of the pillow, and we are going to put on this Strumento Marino Missouri Series 2. And we are going to drop that in there because this is a Watch Gang Black Tier subscription. I did win this watch in a contest for doing videos of unboxings. So I had started video unboxing before they started the contest, and when they did have the contest, I just threw up an entry, and I won the very first month, which happened to be one black tier subscription. Now I don't know if the watch, it was actually these two that came in, if I remember right, and I don't know which one was the actual membership subscription and which one was the contest. It didn't say. They both just came as black subscriptions. So I think it's fair to put this guy in place, and we will use him as part of the review. Then we move on to November, where we got the Jerome Lemars Suerat. Then we move into December, where we got the J Brackett NaviGLI. January, we ended up with a Melbourne Hawthorn. February, a Spinnaker Croft. March, a Nautis Global Dive. Not Diver, Dive. I always want to say Diver, but it's Global Dive. April with the Motor Time Drift. And May with another J Brackett, which is the Chios. So this is all 12 months of our Watch Gang Black Tier subscription, with one minor substitution we're going to throw in there because it's a little bit more fair. So now the question is, was it worth it? So I paid all up front for a year subscription way back in June, and it cost me a little over $1,000. And one nice thing they do when you pay for it up front like that is they negate the shipping cost. So I didn't pay any shipping cost. And you get some additional discounts. So it ends up being a little bit cheaper than the 99 bucks. Now, I don't know if they still do that, but they did it back then. But as we saw when I just did my unboxing, for me it was yesterday, of this Charles Hutton, which is our June 2019, it would actually go right here, Black Tier subscription. This guy actually cost me about, I think, $109 because they tax shipping on top of the $99 for the subscription fee if you buy it month to month. So that's something to be aware of. So assuming the deal is still out there, I haven't looked to see if it is or isn't. It's better to buy it up front if you can. That's true in most cases for most things. So, is it worth being with Watch Gang for an entire year? Well, the answer is yes and no. A little bit of both. There's reasons that it makes sense, and there's reasons it doesn't make sense. And I'll clarify that as we go along. So first, I want to kind of walk through the different pieces and give you not a full review on every piece. We've already done that. Go check the channel. There's a review on every single piece here. I'll put links in the down yonder. But I want to give you just my opinion. Did I like the piece? Did I get pleasure out of it? Did I dislike the piece? Is it something that as soon as this video is over, it's going on the chopping block? There's a mix of both. So, first piece was the Heritor Morrison. I love this piece. This thing is banging. It was everything I wanted in a Watch Gang experience. I was very happy that first month. It was a brand I had never heard of, but I did some, looking online, and it's a brand that's out there in the wild. It's sold in other stores. It's been around for some time. People know the brand. Watch guys know of the brand. Some like it, some hate it, some, are in the middle and don't really care one way or the other. It's not a super high-end brand, but it's nice that it's known. It's a positive to me that it's known out there in the world. So this was definitely a great piece to get, especially for my first piece, and it will absolutely be staying in the collection. Then we came to the Puredial Powersphere in our second month. And I opened it up and I'm like, okay, I'm not a huge fan of the styling, but it is unique, and I do like unique watches, and it's a watch I'd never seen before. It's a brand I'd never heard of before, and I wanted to experience new brands. So I said, this might be pretty good, and I started wearing it. It's actually very, very uncomfortable to wear. It has a very flat back, just a solid, flat piece of steel, and it really is very uncomfortable on your wrist right there. So after I gave it enough wrist time for the review, I kind of stopped wearing it. Did the review, moved on, and I came back and wore it a little bit later because I actually like the coloration of it. The two-tone is actually growing on me, as we talked about in a previous video. So I wore it one time on the way home from work, after the initial review wears, 3, 4, 5 times. It sat in the box after that, and then I wore it one more time. On the way home from work, that screw popped out, and basically the watch fell apart. I contacted Puredial. They basically said, screw you, you can buy another one for $10, but we don't honor any warranty. And so, in my opinion, not a worthy brand. I can't really fault Watch Gang for that. Okay, that was an experience with Puredial, the manufacturer, not Watch Gang. So, we're going to give Watch Gang a pass on this one, but the company themselves, I would avoid them. Then we got the Out of Order. Now, this brand, for whatever reason, is all the rage in the Watch Gang community. If you go look at their exchange page, people love their Out of Orders. And it's not a bad piece. It's not the greatest piece. It's a mediocre piece, but it does have character. Now, this guy is, designed, they actually say damaged in Italy instead of made in Italy. Because they purposefully damage the piece so that it looks older than it is. And we went into all that in the review. If you're interested, go check it out. There's a good history as to why it is the way it is. But it definitely has a lot of character, and it is a piece that when I do wear, people ask questions. What in the world happened to your watch? No, I bought it. Bought it like this. This is the way it's supposed to look. So it starts up an interesting conversation about watches, that you can carry over with other people. And let's face it, that's why, that's one of the things that we as watch collectors love to do, is talk about our watches, talk about watches in general with other people, get other people excited and interested in the hobby and want to come in and start their own collections. So this is a great piece for that. It will be staying in my collection simply for the uniqueness of it, and that kind of special flair it has. I do enjoy that. Again, it's just a meh quartz watch, but that character is undeniable, and it will be hanging around in my collection for that reason. Then we come up to the Chronologia Trekker. Now, this guy is a one-trick pony. It is carbon fiber. The case is carbon fiber, and that is the only trick it has up its sleeve. Other than that, there's really not much point to this watch. To me, it looks like a dartboard. So on aesthetics alone, I really don't like it. The dial is meh. It's actually kind of weak and a little bit feeble. Again, I don't like the styling. It does run a Seiko NH35, so that's good. Nice automatic movement inside there, and the band isn't terrible, but it's just not for me, and it is going to go on the chopping block. Then the Strumento Marino, our substitute. I do not like this piece at all. Now, this is one of those, if you love it, and the same with the Trekker, or the Puredial for that matter. If you guys like it, and I see you out on the street with it, I'm not going to give you any grief. Man, brother, you like what you like. I like what I like, and we'll meet in the middle. You tell me why you like it, and I'll tell you why I don't like it. We'll have that good discussion. I love those healthy, good discussions. It doesn't have to be an argument. There doesn't have to be any hatred in there. There are things, even the pieces I don't like, there's things I like about them. But that doesn't mean I have to like the piece overall. And these two pieces I just don't like overall. So the Strumento Marino, I think, is, it's using a very cheap quartz movement, very, unrecognizable, very just low bargain basement chronograph. It's very hard to read the chronograph itself due to the way they did the hands. We talked about that a little bit in the unboxing for this Charles Hutton, that it is, even though it kind of uses the same thing where the second hand, the largest second hand, is the suite for the clock itself, and the chronograph second hand is actually down on a subdial. The Charles Hutton is actually readable, though barely. The Strumento Marino just isn't. So the chronograph is basically useless. The reds don't match up. The anodized aluminum and the rubber red just don't match up at all. Also don't match up with the red on the dial. It doesn't line, the second hand doesn't line up even close. The PVD, black PVD on the side is horrible. It's very almost sticky. Like, hard to describe, but it's not smooth like stainless steel. It's like tacky almost. Like it's undried paint almost, and it just attracts everything in the world to it. And it just constantly looks nasty when you wear it. you're constantly having to clean it to make it look reasonable. And I've got plenty of PVD watches that are, polished, shiny, and they don't have that issue. It's just a problem with the Strumento itself. Again, just for me, not a great piece. It is on the chopping block and will be going. Then we come up with a Jerome Lemars Suerat. Now this guy I did not like. He does seem to be fairly well liked within the watch can community. So again, fair enough. If you like it, have at it. If it's your style, man, go for it. You're not going to catch no grief from me. I may just ask you to explain it. Say, hey, you know what? I really didn't care for the piece. Why do you like it? Explain it to me. Maybe I'm missing something. So you can explain it to me. We're good to go. And it doesn't have to be a reason that I like it for. You're like, man, I love sandwich dials. This is a sandwich dial, and that's all I need. It's good for me. Hey, great. It's not good enough for me, but it may be good enough for you. So this guy does have the sandwich dial. The loom is all pretty horrible, and yet another chronograph with the sweeping second hand for the clock and the chronograph second hand on a subdial. A little bit hard to read. Not as bad as the Strumento, but definitely worse than the Charles Hutton we were just looking at. This guy is going to go on the chopping block. The leather's not terrible. It's not great, but it's not awful. And the polish is actually pretty good. So we'll give him kudos on the polish. Did a decent job there. Of course, the Cyclops eye, as any watch in this price range slaps a Cyclops eye, it's always going to be off-center. It is, in fact, off-center. So that's the Jerome Lemars. It is on the chopping block. We move on to the J Brackett. It's horrible. If you watch the review of this, I held nothing back. I don't like this piece in the slightest. Again, if you do, I'm not knocking you. You're welcome to like it all you want to like it. You're like, hey, Oblix, I love this dial. It's for me. Man, rock on, brother. No complaints from me. I personally do not like the aesthetic. I do not like the cheap feel of it. This bracelet feels like garbage. It feels like just awful Chinese mess. The case feels like awful Chinese mess. The only thing worth value in this piece is the movement, and that's just because it's a traditional Seiko NH35. Everything else, throw it away, start over. Definitely one on the chopping block. So we had 3-4 months of bad, and I was feeling pretty miserable at that point. Like, gosh, this is just not working out. Kind of want to cancel early, see if I get my money back. This isn't going anywhere. Then we got into January, and we got the Melbourne Hawthorn. That put the brakes on that thinking, because this thing is baller. I love this piece. Melbourne knocked it out of the park. It is a beautiful piece. Very well done. The polish is excellent. The bracelet feels very nice. I like the stepped dial. I like the texture on the dial. I like the applied indices. I like that little pop of red on the second hand. I love that the second hand has that little red M on it. It's a useful chronograph, and it is Seiko Mecha Quartz, which gives you that really nice push button. You get to feel the click when you start the chronograph. The full second hand is the actual chronograph second hand. Very, very useful. Oh, I love the feel of that click. You get the snap back. It is a wonderful, wonderful piece. It's absolutely staying in the collection. I would have actually preferred there was a different dial color I liked. I think gray, if I remember right. I don't know. I have to watch the review of it. I think I actually showed a picture of it, but I really like that color better than this green color. But the green ain't bad, let me tell you. It's a little darker than I like. I would like a little lighter green, I think. But it is definitely going to stay in the collection. Then we got the Spinnaker Croft. So now we're on a roll, because you guys know I love my Spinnakers. I have a lot of Spinnakers. Actually, if you see the unboxing for this watch, I actually said that in the unboxing. I was like, oh no, it's a Spinnaker. And I don't mean that negatively. I just have a lot of Spinnakers, so this is probably a duplicate. Fortunately for me, it wasn't. It was one of the few Spinnakers I don't already have. So it was really cool to get this piece. I love this piece. I think it's gorgeous. That textured dial is amazing. One of the few pieces where the Cyclops eye is actually pretty darn straight, but they made it round instead of, the little, like they did on the Suerat, which is the normal way, where they chop the top and the bottom to flatten them out. Spinnaker slapped a round one on there. It's got that sub-second dial. It's just a really cool looking piece. Love the leather. Love the case, the detail on the case. Polishing is excellent. Love that crystal, the domed on the crystal. Just a really, really nice piece, and I was super stoked. So, all right, 2 in a row. Good job, loving it. Then we came in with the Nautis, and I'm like, okay, this brand doesn't get a whole lot of love in the watch gang community. It's not one of those that gets a huge amount of hate. You know, there are some watches that just get massive amount of hate. J Brackett's one of them. But it doesn't get a lot of love either, so I was a little skeptical, I'm not going to lie. So I started looking at this piece during the unboxing, and I'm like, you know what, this thing ticks a lot of boxes. You know, it's got loom around the bezel, it's a nice chunky piece, helium escape valve, screw down case back, screw down crown, nice solid stainless steel bracelet, just a good solid feeling piece, beautiful textured dial in that pretty blue. You know, a couple things I didn't much care for. I don't like the coloration difference between the loom on the applied indices versus the bezel. You know, this is more of that vintaged yellowed color, where the applied indices are more of a white. I would like to see those the same color. I think that would look better to my eye. But all in all, a pretty quality piece, and I've enjoyed wearing it, and the loom is fantastic on this thing. So, you know, Nautis did a good job, and I'm definitely not going to knock them. You know, it's a good piece, and it probably isn't going to stay in the collection forever. But, you know, it's one of those, you know, I really won't wear it that much. But it's going to stay in the collection for a little while. It's not immediately going on the chopping block. But probably down the road it will. You know, it's one of those kind of come and go pieces. But we will keep it and wear it for a while, and it's definitely one I won't knock watch gang for. It's a pretty decent piece. Then we move down to the Motor Time Drift. And this thing is hot mess, let me tell you. We're down into J Brackett territory of junk. Yeah, you know, they say the dial's carbon fiber. It's not. It's, you know, we zoomed in quite close. We pulled out the magnifier at 45 times zoom, took a look at it, and it's definitely not. Yeah, it's just junky, you know, old school chronograph, you know, ancient movement. Nothing new, no mecha quartz. There's just nothing to write home about with this piece. The leather's plasticky. The you know, case finish is okay. You know, I've gotten very similar, you know, detail out of, you know, $50 Chinese watches. This is, you know, cost $100. You know, I actually showed a very, very similar watch in the review I did of this watch. A little bit different dial pattern. On AliExpress for, if I remember right, $35, and they want, you know, also carbon fiber dial and leather strap and the whole 9 yards. They want $100 for this, but that one was $35. So really hard to justify the price of this piece. Don't like this piece. These lugs droop down an insane amount. It is very uncomfortable to wear, and yeah, it's absolutely out of here. As soon as this video is over. Garbage piece. Then we move into our very last month, where we got this J Brackett Chios. Now, needless to say, I saw J Brackett on the box and my heart sank based on the experience with this NaviGLI. Absolute garbage piece on that NaviGLI, and I'm like, oh Lord have mercy, not another J Brackett, come on. But to their credit, trying to be as unbiased as possible here, but laying my bias out on the table where it stands. This isn't a terrible piece. It's by no means a great piece. There's flaws. You know, the texturing here is not good. You know, there's a lot of things that could be better on this piece. This, you know, bracelet, while better than the one on the NaviGLI, still has that obnoxious, you have to grab and yank. There's no pushers on it. They should all have pushers at this point, personal opinion. But it's not a bad piece. The bezel is reasonable. So, not terrible, but it's still really marred by my experience with that J bracket. And I really have no love lost for this brand. I have no interest in anything this brand has to sell. This one probably is going to go on the chopping block. But like I said, it's not a bad piece. It's just a bad company. So I'm getting away from them just because I don't want a J bracket in my collection. Now, I'm going to go into my personal opinion here. I'm pretty certain that J bracket and Motor Time Drift are, if not subsidiaries, wholly funded and sponsored by the company Watch Gang. I don't think they have any business outside of what Watch Gang does. At least Jerome Lemars you can find in other places, but these two, no. And I find that to be very, very unethical. If it's true, again, I have no super insights. I don't know for sure. My feeling, my research, it really looks like the J brackets and Motor Times are probably owned by Watch Gang. Quite possibly, from my recent research, the Charles Huttons may be too. If that's the case, I find that horribly unethical. We join Watch Gang as members, or at least I did, to get watches from other vendors, their designs, stuff I might not find otherwise in my pocket or on my wrist. I did not join Watch Gang to have Watch Gang build a watch and send it to me, which I'm pretty sure is what these are. And I find that very unethical, and I do not enjoy or appreciate that in any way, shape, form, or fashion. So, it comes down to, is Watch Gang worth it? Well, and I told you at the beginning, a little bit yes, a little bit no. So, if you are expecting to pay $99 and get a fantastic, amazing piece every single month, Watch Gang is not for you. Save that money. Go buy the watch you want to buy. Yes, you're probably going to pay more, but you're going to get the watch you want. You're going to be far better off. You're going to spend less money in the long run. I mean, granted, this is over $1,000. What watches could I have bought for $1,000? I definitely wouldn't have come back with any of these except for maybe that Spinnaker. I would have come back with a much nicer piece, having spent that $1,000 elsewhere. Something I would have forever passed down to my children. These guys, I'll probably keep the Spinnaker and the Heritor long term, maybe even the Melbourne. The rest will probably fade out of the collection over time. So where is Watch Gang a good fit? If you're new to the watch collecting hobby and you don't know what you like, when I started collecting watches, or when I started back here a year ago, I had no interest in dive watches at all. Didn't care for them, didn't want to look at them, had no interest in them. Why would I use that stupid bezel? I don't want that thing. Now, because I've had so many good ones, I'm like, okay, I'm liking these dive watches. And I found myself actually gravitating more towards them. So, that's been an experience Watch Gang has provided me. The ability to see lots of different pieces. I did not like chronographs when I started. Honestly, I still don't like chronographs. It's my least favorite watch type. Of all the watch types out there, chronograph is my least favorite, still to this day. But it's been nice that I found some chronographs that I actually like this Melbourne Hawthorn. Granted, I still find a lot I don't like, but I found some I do that I'm like, I could wear this. And chronographs are useful to have a chronograph, to time things. But again, you can kind of do that with a dive watch as well. So, if you're newer to collecting, or if you're older to collecting and you haven't branched out into other things, Watch Gang may be a good fit for you. It may help you expand upon your collection in ways you didn't expect. It may help you find things you didn't know you liked. You know, if you've always been an automatic guy and they hand you a nice quartz like the Nautis here, and you're like, you know what, quartz ain't half bad. That's expanding your mindset, and that's a good thing. Or if you've always ever owned quartz, you never thought you could afford a good auto, and they hand you a decent auto, you know, like the Heritor Morrison, and you're like, oh, you know what? There's something to be said about these autos. That ain't half bad. You know, it's expanding your mind. It's helping you see things in a different way. If you always buy watches of one size and they hand you a watch of a different size, if you always wear leather and they hand you a silicone and you're like, you know what, that silicone ain't bad. Now I see it. Now I get it. It's not something I would have ever gone into the store and bought for myself, but because they shipped it to me blindly, I was forced to learn and forced to learn about it and try it, and now I actually like it. So that's where they do the most good, and that's where I think they're of the most benefit. So now I have a question for you guys. And I meant to ask this question right here before we got our next watch. Unfortunately, we got our next watch. So I'm asking your question after 13 months of Watch Gang Black Tier. What do you want to see on this channel? You as the viewer, you as a subscriber, and if you're not subscribed, go hit that little button down there. It doesn't take you but a second. I certainly would appreciate it. But what do you want to see? Do you want to see me continue with Watch Gang? Or do you want me to move on? Do you want to see me continue with Watch Gang at the same tier, at the black tier, or do you want to see me switch to a different tier? You know, they have the platinum tier at $300. They have the original tier, which is, I think, $30, you know, lower end watches. What do you want to see? Do you want to see what the lower end watches look like? You know, are you, someone's like, you know, oh, look, I just can't afford $100 a month, but I could maybe afford 30, but I'd like to really know what they have in that tier. Is that something you want to see? Or do you want to see me continue with the black tier? You're like, you know what, Olix? The Watch Gang has run its course. Let's move on to other things. We do have the Zoobox stuff coming up. So the next Zoobox actually, I believe, closes out ordering tomorrow and then starts production in July, if I'm not mistaken. So we should be getting that before too terribly long. And hopefully that gets on better track. That the S&B fiasco just really jacked them up. But hopefully, you know, these next brands will pick up the pace and get it moving in the right direction. So we are going to see some Zoobox content coming out soon. I've actually looked around. There's a couple other watch clubs we could look at joining if you would prefer to move in that direction. But you guys, let me know right down in the comments down there. I read every single comment. I try to reply to every comment that's not just some trolly stupid person. Those I just ignore. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you want, because this is your channel too. I'm not up here prattling on because I want to prattle on. I'm prattling on because I'm hoping it's helping somebody out there. I mean, I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. I love doing this stuff. But what I really love is when you guys write in and say, you know, hey, Oblix, I really appreciate this. It helped me make a decision on my purchase. Or, hey, I got the same thing and I like this and this and this, but I didn't like this and this and this. Or, you know, I disagree with you on this because this and this and this. I love those types of comments, guys. I really do appreciate it. It is your channel. You know, help me move it in the direction you want to go. So, looking forward to seeing what you guys write down in there. I will respond back to you. No guarantees we're going to go any way any specific body wants, but you're going to help me make the decision. So, that is all the time I got for today. Sure do appreciate it. You guys came with me for, well, now 13 months of Watch Gang Black Tier. As always, guys, y'all, get out there, make some noise. See ya.